If you're experiencing pain when pressing, here are a few alterations and considerations that may allow you to make pressing feel more comfortable while still pursuing considerable strength gains. The first is called a floor press, and it's true to its name. In a floor press, the goal of the exercise is to press from the floor in a way that we might press from a bench. The floor press can be performed with either feet down or heels off the ground. The benefit of the floor press is that it allows for greater stability from the floor and also potentially more core activation to support the shoulders in the pressing activity. To feel what we're looking for here as we're pressing and wanting to maintain as we press, lift your feet off the ground and hold your arms in front of your face like you're reading a book. Knees should be at about 12 o'clock, maybe a little bit further, but not too far close to the face where it'll take off the gas and make this exercise too easy. So knees pointed dead at the ceiling at 12 o'clock, arms in front of the face like you're reading a book. Reach your kneecaps for the ceiling while also tucking your pelvis. If you had a glass of water on your zipper, you're tucking your pelvis as if you're trying to spill that water onto your chest. Elbows also reach for the ceiling. If we do this successfully, we're going to feel a good bit of squeeze right here through the middle, particularly towards the bottom of the abs. Take 3 to 5 breaths here, inhaling nice, slow, steady, and gentle underneath the pressure without losing ground in the kneecaps or elbows. And exhale, reaching for another half millimeter or millimeter through the kneecaps and the elbows. Again, 3 to 5 breaths just to get the sensation that we're looking to maintain in the press. Once you're familiar with that, you may also be able to find that sensation again with your heels down. Again, tucking the tailbone as if you're trying to spill the glass of water on your zipper onto your chest, and breathing underneath this firm belly. To get set up in this position, I would suggest getting the weights onto your lap first and then lying back. Here we can find those abs that we just connected with. Big breath in and press. Punching through the arms and shoulders at the very, very top to get this last little bit of degrees of movement from the shoulder blades as well. And then back down with control. Clearly the floor will limit how far down we're able to go in this particular exercise. If weight has been triggering your shoulder, or I should say if pressing has been triggering your shoulder, a couple other alterations that we're able to add to the floor press are lowering the speed, so not driving down to the bottom and then driving back out. Sometimes that yanking and tugging or the speed of a movement can add a little bit of grumpiness to a joint, so slowing the movement down. And in order to do this, what I'd ask you to do is drop the weight. So we're going to use less weight than you might normally, and instead we're going to create the difficulty through slowness and control. You can either rest at the bottom here for a break, and then gather your abs, gather yourself for the next press, or we can kiss down gently without fully resting in the elbows, again, punching towards the top. As I'm punching here, the spine stays heavy in the ground, the neck stays long. We're not going to punch so hard and far that we curl and crunch away from the floor. For a bit more range and option, we can use a bench. What is lost in the stability of the floor is gained in range of motion and a bit more freedom of choice and movement. Laying back on the bench, the same position can be achieved as the floor press by lifting the feet off the ground and again finding those abs. Here we can either commit to the same range, stopping with the elbows in line with the torso, or we can allow the weight to pull ourselves just a little bit deeper, seeking out a bit more stretch through the chest. Again, driving back up. Here again, slowness is your friend. By bringing the feet down to the ground, we'll lose a bit of the belly squeeze feel, but by pressing the heels, we're going to get a bit more oomph, a bit more giddy up in our press. That dig of the heels will allow us to drive more weight in this setup. One consideration, however, is that we don't want to lose this relationship by bringing the heels down and allowing the pelvis to crinkle the shirt in the low back and open us up here in the front. This will mean that we've lost really our connection to our power center, and the shoulders will have a little bit less support from the core, potentially opening us up to maybe a little bit more grumpiness. Not always, but potentially. So here we want to strive to tip that glass of water back onto our chest. If we don't have the range of motion necessary here in the hips for this to be successful, we simply add a yoga block or anything else underneath the feet to bring the floor up to us. This will allow us to get all that goodness of digging the heels into the ground while pressing without the loss of integrity here by reaching for too much range of motion. An additional technique or skill consideration in the bench press, as we're pulling ourselves into the bottom range, the goal of the press, beyond just training the triceps, is to train this tissue here at the front of the chest, the pec muscles. So we do want to seek out a stretch through this tissue. This means that we are rowing our way down to proud collarbones and broad chest without losing the integrity of the middle bits here by lifting and crinkling. So no lifting of the rib cage. That stays pinned down as we reach for broad collarbones, broad chest. If we do not do this well, it doesn't need to be perfect, but if we don't do this well, one of the things that will happen often is that the shoulder instead will roll forward. This can place a little extra strain on the tissue here in the front of the shoulder and occasionally cause grumpiness. So if you have a video camera or a mirror, it's worth a setup, either looking at the mirror or setting up a camera, just so you can give an extra set of eyes to yourself to make sure that the form is not dumping forward, and if it is, perhaps that is adding that undue strain, and we can either shorten the range of motion or try to clean up our form and technique as we pull into those bottom ranges. An additional adjustment that we can make in the press to potentially influence our experience in our joints of the press is to change the angle at which we are holding the chicken wings, the upper arm bones, driving through, again punching through the shoulder blades. I'm going to go empty-handed here for a moment so you can see more of my shoulders. Again, here we can go everywhere from close to the ribs to all the way out to a T, which may have more demands on the mobility of the shoulder. A good place to start is usually cutting the difference, somewhere in the 45-degree range. Here the audio goes out, so I'll jump in with my voice. Traditionally, the wider we go, the more pec muscle, chest muscle will feel there in the press. The closer to the ribs we go, the more back of arm muscle will feel in the press. Either way, by changing the angle of the press, we can change our experience through the joints in the press. I typically like to have the weight, the angle of the dumbbell, match the angle of the upper arm bone, driving up and clacking them together, if you will, at the top. We can even press the two weights together and scrape down, scraping up, driving those weights. That might be an additional way that we can change our experience of pressing through that shoulder so that we can press in a way that is tolerable without leaving any strength gains on the table here. Finally, some considerations around tolerable pain in movement and exercise. Tolerable pain is acceptable in exercise, either within a given session or from one session to the next. as long as it stays below a 3 or 4 out of 10, or whatever you consider to be tolerable. And tolerable in this instance is defined by any pain or discomfort within the activity that allows you to continue without sucking air through your teeth or holding your breath or gasping for air. And we want to make sure that that number stays at a 3 or 4 out of 10 from one rep to the next, right, or one session to the next, that it's not building through the course of your set or building each time you come back to the same activity in the same setup, the same way, at the same weight. Pain does go up and down, long form over the course of our life, and that's natural. This is over the weeks that you continue to revisit this movement, feeling the pain continue to grow. We also want to ensure that the activity doesn't produce any loss of function from your baseline within the 12 to 24 hours after. A little extra soreness or soreness the next day is okay, particularly soreness that goes away after the first 30 minutes or so of kind of warming up into your day. And so this means that we can continue to track progress in your strength as defined by the numbers going up or your capacity to push more weight and be stronger within an exercise or any other way we are progressing the exercise. And still bring a little bit of discomfort along for the ride.